So is this is not going to come as a shock to anyone here. This is not news. There was an eclipse yesterday. And there's a lot of interpretation about an eclipse. I'm not an astrologer. I'm not a numerologist. But I do like how life works in metaphor. So I'll offer a perspective and then tie that back to meditation and mindfulness. So yesterday we had an opportunity where we lost the sun for a little bit. Yes, granted, in New England we just lost a portion of it, but I'm going to speak globally for a moment, really kind of continentally. That in the middle of the day there was this darkness. It was just right for everybody to see. Right? It wasn't darkness in the middle of the night when we're all sleeping. It was right there in the middle of the day. Here comes some darkness that we cannot ignore. It's just part of our lives. And how that plays out, that is metaphorical for how it can play out personally, familially, in a community sense, culturally, nationally, globally. And really, it's an opportunity that, okay, here is our shadow being shown to us. Here, right, cannot deny it. It's up right here in our face. It's certainly been growing over steam for a few years. And one of the things that people said, things are not getting worse, they're just getting uncovered. Things have been here before, but now it's just becoming aware. So if you're familiar with anybody from the African American community, like police brutality is not something that's new. It's just being shown more. It's been there. Distrust of the police has been there for decades, at least, but it's just becoming more aware now in our public mind. The shadow side of life is becoming more clear. It's not that it wasn't there, and it's just a moment of awareness, right? So this is just greater awareness for us that there's shadow, and we can speak culturally, but we can also speak individually. All of us has our shadow. All of us has our spots that we don't want to look at, that we don't want to talk about, that we don't want people to know. That line from A Few Good Men from Jack Nicholson is that spot in you deep down that you don't talk about at parties. That spot is we all have. It's just part of being human. It's there, and there are lots of ways that we tend to deal with it. So one is we tend to run from it. Nobody likes things that we don't like. Let's not be here. Let's get out. But there's this story about this guy who tried to run away from a shadow. And so he saw it, he didn't like it on the ground, so he just started running. But the shadow stayed with him. So he ran even harder. And he ran further and he ran harder until he collapsed out of exhaustion. And logically, of course, you can't outrun your shadow. As long as there's light, you're going to have a shadow. But the piece being that, if you were to step into the shade, the shadow would disappear. So if you step into the darkness, if you start to embrace this is what's here, then we can deal with it. But running from it, it's still going to be there. So if we ignore in ourselves, and I'm just going to speak of our internal world, within our own head and our own heart, the parts of us that we don't like, the parts of us that we don't trust, the parts of us that we're ashamed of, or we don't respect, or we wish we're different, whatever that is, if we run from that, it's still there. There's that famous book, I think it's by John Kabat-Zinn. It's wherever you go, there you are. So if there's a part of you that you don't like, there's a part of you that you don't trust, that is always with you. You can't outrun it. It's there. So, all right, so we can't run from it. All right, well, we can fight it. But fighting doesn't necessarily work either. And those of you who've been here before or seen these videos before, you've seen this example. But if you haven't, or even if you have, right now, no matter what you do not think of a pink elephant. And bing, it shows up. Why? Because what happens is we say, okay, well, first, the way the mind works is I'm going to create this thing, and then I'm going to put a circle and a line through it. Whatever we fight, whatever we resist persists. Whatever we fight ends up getting stronger. Fighting it is not necessarily an option either. Okay, so if we can't run from it and we can't fight from it, what's left? Are we doomed? No, we step into the shade with it. This is an opportunity for us to step into our own shadow, into our own shade, and say, well, what's here? How do we approach our own stuff with awareness and compassion? So I add that word compassion because awareness is amoral. It does not have an agenda. It's just aware. What you do with the awareness, the so what answer to that question. So okay, you're aware of this, now what? That's what's important. Right? So for instance, when we as a human species we map the genome, that's a step forward in awareness. Right? It's awareness information that we did not have before. But what we do with that information, is up to us. We can take that information and we can find out more about how we're built and learn about how to prevent disease and really, help humanity. We can also, that same information, it's just awareness, can be used to develop weapons that will do the exact opposite. That can destroy us from a DNA level out. It's just information. So just having the awareness, okay, this is the spot about me I don't like, this is my shadow, that's great. It's a very, very, very important step. But then comes this so what? What are you doing with that? So for us, if we can't run from our shadow, fighting it doesn't help. We sit here and we're aware that it's there, and then we can bring some compassion to it. Right? All of our places, all of our own personal shadow, all of the things that we don't necessarily like about ourselves, the places of internal conflict, they're not going to be resolved by fighting or by running. And all of them, we came about in an honest way. Right? All of us, at every moment in our lives, we are doing the very best that we can. There's a space of, even if we make, I know if I make the decision, I know it's not going to go well, and we do it anyway, we're still trying to ease some sort of internal pain, trying to avoid some sort of pain or some fear, trying to control our environment, which has got a positive intent at its core, an intent of self-preservation, an intent of self-love. But so we can connect with that and say, okay, well, even these things I don't like, I can still find a way of understanding them. I can still bring compassion to them. That starts to unwind them. That deepens our awareness. That deepens our acceptance of self. That deepens our internal peace. That deepens our connection with a deeper way of who we are and how we can walk through the world in a more peaceful way. So this is not necessarily a doom for us if we have shadow. Personally, culturally, it's not a way that we can, we're doomed, right? But it's an opportunity for us now that it's out in the light, whether internally or culturally or familially, that we have an opportunity to say, okay, this is what's here. How do I approach it with some compassion? How do I approach this with some understanding? That is going to transform it in a way that is healthier and provide the outcome that we truly want, not just fighting it or running from it. So here, the eclipse just provides an opportunity for a metaphor. Whether it's actually having a specific effect on our specific lives or not, that's not for me to say. Right? We all have our own beliefs around that, cool. But what we do with that, it's a wonderful opportunity to highlight shadow within ourselves. And now we have an opportunity to recognize it, step in with it in a deeper way. So I'll leave that for your consumption, for your pontification. Thank you so much for stepping in tonight. Thank you for everyone at home, and hope you have a lovely night.